So when you are in love, you listen to a lot of music, don't you? He is doing that. It's like a teenager who has his headphones on when he falls in love. So that's Orsino for us. Hello and welcome back to NibblePop. Today in this video, we are going to start Twelfth Night by William Shakespeare. We're going to look at the first scene of the first act, where we will meet one of the very important characters, Duke Orsino. As we have done with Macbeth, we are going to look at all the scenes in great details in separate videos. So stay connected so that you get notified every time the new video comes up. So hit that subscription button right away. And if you haven't watched the previous video where I have told the story of Twelfth Night, please go back after you watch this video to check out what the story is about. So let's not wait any further and jump straight into the text. Although in Shakespeare we find many deviations from the Greek tragedies and comedies, we see that he adheres to certain basic points. For instance, he structures his plays usually in 5 acts, and here, because this is the first scene, we are also looking at the first act. The first act is technically the exposition, which means that we get to know who the main characters are, what their relationships are, and how they interact with each other, which lead to a certain kind of complication which we see in the second act. Now, because this is the first scene of the first act, it acts as a double exposition scene because it is the first time we are seeing the characters on stage and we do not know what's going to happen to them, what their problems are, what kind of people these characters are. Now, we will also have to keep in mind that the basic difference between Shakespearean characters in tragedies and Shakespearean characters in comedies is that while in tragedies we see, characters singled out, isolated from the main group, in case of comedies, we see characters all within a social milieu, as if they are working almost in harmony, except for a few things. Now, these things which make these characters weird, unique, different, these things make us sometimes laugh, sometimes think, and sometimes feel that this is the comic essence. So when we look at the characters in the first scene, we will not just go through the lines and know their meanings. That we will do. We will also try to see what Shakespeare might be trying to tell us through hints and suggestions, through these speeches that these characters make. Because unlike George Bernard Shaw, Shakespeare hates to give an elaborate stage direction. He doesn't do that. He gives a free hand to the director and he simply knows that whatever information the audience needs to gather, they can gather from the speech of the characters. Okay, so let's just look at the opening speech of this play. The setting is Illyria. It's a faraway land. And the ruler of this place is Duke Orsino, and we see him in his court in the first scene, and he has his attendants, Curio and other lords, and there is some music which is being played. Okay, so this is the setting. If music be the food of love, play on, give me excess of it. Orsino is talking about the music which is kind of being played in the background by musicians, and he wants them to play on. So he says, if music be the food of love, play on, give me excess of it, that surfeiting the appetite may sicken and so die. He thinks that music helps love to bloom. So it's like food of love. Okay, so when you are in love, you listen to a lot of music, don't you? He is doing that. It's like a teenager who has his headphones on when he falls in love. So that's Orsino for us. And he is wishing for more music. Why? Because he is so sick of love. He hates his situation so much that he wants to get rid of love. And he feels that when we are very hungry, we crave food, we start eating with a lot of happiness, but after a certain point of time, if we go on eating, then what happens? Our appetite, our desire to eat, it goes away, and we kind of hate that food, and that love for that food ends. So Orsino is saying that because music is the food of love, you should play now till that point where I hate to listen to music and therefore stop loving. Now, why is Orsino so bothered about this love? When you love someone and that person loves you back, then love is not that disturbing a thing. You can enjoy it together. When it's one-sided love, when the person you think you love, that person doesn't reciprocate, then you want to get rid of that love. So maybe Orsino is not getting a kind of fulfillment which he wants from love, and he wants to get rid of it. And he says, that strain again. So the musicians, they are playing some musical instrument, and while playing, at this moment they have played one single tone which he likes a lot. So he is directly asking them to play it again. That strain again, it had a dying fall. So that tone which hit him at that moment, it had a kind of a dying fall, like a crescendo, or as if it was like this final moment which you have in a musical composition, and he wants it to be replayed. Oh, it came over my ear like the sweet sound that breathes upon a bank of violets, stealing and giving odor. So that music from those instruments, they're having a certain effect on him. What effect? Just as the wind which passes over a bed of flowers, violets here means flowers, bank of violets, then the flowers give out that beautiful fragrance, odor. But it feels as if the wind is stealing that scent from them and also spreading it out. So stealing and giving odor. So that music which is coming from those instruments is making him feel his emotions, and at the same time he's trying to express his emotions. So it's that wind simile which he uses here. Suddenly he has had enough. Enough, no more. So, just 1 minute back he's saying, please play that again. And the next moment he's saying, enough, no more. Like, I'm getting bored now. So this is a man who gets bored easily and quite unpredictable. You don't know how to please him. Okay? It's not so sweet now as it was before. The music is not so sweet now. Now he's getting bored of it. And then he starts philosophizing. He starts saying that, okay, this is the spirit of love. We accept everything. We start liking everything. And then suddenly we are not interested. So he's trying to explain to himself the nature of love. And what is that? O spirit of love, how quick and fresh art thou, that, notwithstanding thy capacity, receiveth as the sea. So love is like an ocean. It doesn't care how much it can hold. It goes on receiving like that ocean. Not enters there, of what validity and pitch soever. It doesn't matter what love receives. It goes on receiving. But falls into abatement and low price even in a minute. So when you are in love, you are unpredictable, you like something, and then the next moment you don't like it anymore. Now this is Orsino's version of love, we have to remember. Twelfth Night is about all these versions of love. This is one version of it. So Shakespeare is like displaying before you a whole gourmet, a whole platter where you can see different kinds of love. And then he's telling you, look, see which one matches your idea of love. So Orsino's idea of love is that it's unpredictable, it receives and then it loses interest in a moment. So full of shapes is fancy that it alone is high fantastical. Fantastical, fancy, all these words, they are related to imagination. And somehow he is relating love to imagination. It's as if he is having all these fantasies with the person he wants to be. So it's not like he has any real relationship with this person. We'll get to know that very shortly. And from this speech, we have this feeling that this man is not very comfortable with his feelings of love and desire. He rather wants to get rid of them. And he is using these words, sicken, die. So you don't associate love with sickness or death. He's doing that. He wants to get rid of this disturbing emotion that is destabilizing him somehow. So is love seen as a problem here? That is like a disease which needs a cure. Curio. What a coincidence. We were just saying cure and we have Curio. So Curio is an attendant who is in the court of Orsino. Now I want to pause here and share with you something that I have observed in my various readings of different plays by Shakespeare. He has a thing for names. It's like he plays a game with these names of characters. Curio means it's a decorative object, it's like a rare, bizarre, weird thing. So what? We are to expect a bizarre, weird, strange kind of fellow here in the shape of Curio. Curio is very unimportant, but his name is very striking. It arouses a lot of curiosity even in us. When we look at the name Orsino, it is an Italian name which means little bear. Now that sounds very cozy and playful, doesn't it? But actually when you think of it, little bear also refers to the constellation Ursa Minor. And once you make that connection between Orsino and that constellation of stars, you might start thinking that is Shakespeare telling us that Orsino is the star of our story? Or is he telling us that he is a dreamy person, who is unrealistic? He does not belong to this earth. He belongs to the skies and imagination and starry nights. An additional factor will come into play when we will read the second scene together, but I'll just give you a small little spoiler here. In second scene, we will see a shipwrecked Viola reaching Olivia, and she doesn't know where to go, and she decides to go to Orsino's court. And here Orsino is like that guiding person, guiding a person when they are lost in sea. And that constellation I was talking about, Ursa Minor, that constellation guided the mariners when there were no compasses, because it had the pole star as an extension of it. Therefore, Orsino is the little bear in Viola's life, perhaps. Anyway, let's come back to the scene first. Curio wants to change the topic. Maybe he thinks that Orsino needs some entertainment, and he says, "Will you go hunt, my lord?" Hunting was a very good way of having fun for these people. Even now, some people, they go for hunting and they find a lot of enjoyment there. Duke Orsino is absent-minded. He's thinking about his love and music and all those things, and suddenly Curio asks him, "Will you go for hunting?" So he says, "What, Curio? The hart?" So hart is a mature deer, a grown-up male deer, and it was considered to be a very prestigious thing to be able to kill not just any deer, but a hart, a stag, a mature stag. But when Curio pronounces H-A-R-T, heart, on stage and to Orsino, it sounds like H-E-A-R-T also, like, because they have similar pronunciations. So he says, why? So I do, the noblest that I have. So I have the noblest heart, H-E-A-R-T. So this man is not only absent-minded, he is very imaginative, because he associates H-A-R-T, heart, with H-E-A-R-T, heart, and then he goes on to tell that he has lost his heart when he had seen Olivia, and says, "Oh, when mine eyes did see Olivia first, methought she purged the air of pestilence, disease, plague, pollution." So Olivia has such a pure air about her, such serenity, that when I saw her, then I was transfixed. That instant was I turned into a heart. This heart is again H-A-R-T. So he is playing with words, and when Shakespeare does this, we know that he is so much capable of using pun, P-U-N. Pun means when you play with words where a word may mean two different things, or two different words who sound similar. Okay, so pun is something we see Shakespeare repeatedly using in a lot of context, especially in comedies, because pun is intended to be a bit of a comic figure of speech, or something which creates an effect of comedy. So Orsino, he feels that he was turned into a deer when he saw Olivia. And why is he saying this? Because then he continues the allusion to a Greek myth. He says, "And my desires, like fell and cruel hounds, ever since pursue me." In Greek mythology, there was this guy called Actaeon, who went for hunting with his hounds, with his dogs. And he went to a place where Diana, the goddess of chastity, she was having a nice bath at some waterfall. Actaeon was not a malicious person. He did not want to harm anybody. But when you see Diana taking a bath, you do take a peep. There's nothing wrong in that, probably. So Actaeon, he was transfixed by the sight of this most beautiful woman he has ever seen. Diana found that Actaeon was gazing at her, and she cursed him, transformed him into a deer. And not just that, she continued to punish him. How? She made these dogs, which went on with Actaeon, chase Actaeon, who was now a deer. So these dogs did not know that they were chasing down their own master. So Actaeon was chased and hurt brutally by his own hounds. So here, Orsino is transformed into a deer. His desire for Olivia are like dogs. Now that he has become a deer, his own desires are chasing him. In short, he is totally disturbed at this moment and he cannot rest. So what we see is that there is, violence in the image that is created in front of our eyes, but there is also a lot of self-obsession. How many times have we heard him speak out, the name of Olivia, and how many times he has talked about himself and his own desires. So what? Olivia is like an excuse. It's like this guy is in love with the idea of love. It's like being in love is trendy. If you are a young, mature man, then you should have a girlfriend. That kind of a sentiment is running here very, very strongly in Orsino. And there is a lot of physicality. He's using words which have very erotic connotations. Okay, so love for Orsino is something which is very imaginative, fantastical, and at the same time physical, erotic. So usually the world of physicality does not directly go hand in hand with the world of imagination, right? But in case of Orsino, we see a strange kind of mix-up of these two aspects. Okay. Now comes the next character, Valentine. Well, that doesn't need much explaining, I'm sure. Valentine, he is a middle-aged man who was sent as an official messenger to Olivia. And what was his message to Olivia? That Orsino wants to be in a relationship with you, wants to marry you. But, well, let's see what happened. Enter Valentine, and seeing him, Orsino is very eager to know about what has happened. How now? What news from her? So please, my lord, I might not be admitted. He was not allowed to meet her. But from her handmaid do return this answer. Handmaid means her maidservant. From Olivia's maidservant, he got an indirect answer. And the answer is the element itself. Element here means the air, sun, that is nature. The element itself, till 7 years heat, so for 7 long years, shall not behold her face at ample view. So this Olivia will not show her face to the sun for 7 long summers. But like a cloistress, she will veiled walk and water once a day her chamber round with eye offending brine. Olivia would behave like a nun. And what would she do? Cloistress means nun. She will walk wearing a veil and cover her face, and once a day for 7 years she will walk about her room, her chamber, and she would cry. What is eye offending brine? Brine means salt water. Salt water which comes out of your eyes are your tears which offend your eyes, right? If you cry a lot, your eyes start getting swollen and feel painful. So eye offending brine means tears. So what message did Valentine get from the handmaid? That Olivia will not show her face to anybody for 7 years. She will move around her room wearing a veil and weep once a day for these 7 years. And why would she do that? All this to season a brother's dead love. Okay, so her brother is dead. Season means when you add preservative to pickles or things you want to keep fresh for a long period of time, that is called seasoning. So this whole ritual of weeping and remaining veiled, this whole ritual will act as a seasoning to preserve a brother's memory who is dead. But don't you find this a bit weird? See, we all have faced loss in our lives. But when you lose somebody whom you deeply love, can you really make a promise to yourself that for, say, 7 years, for 10 years, I will weep for this person? What about the 8th year, the 11th year? Won't you still remain sad for this person? How can you know that you will feel like weeping only once a day? And how can you know that you will feel like crying every day? So this looks like a message which is not genuine. Valentine is not lying. Valentine has been told this by Olivia's handmaid. So definitely Olivia is giving this answer which has a lot of improbability in it. Why? Because in reality all she wants to tell is, I'm not interested. Please don't bother me. But you can't tell that to a duke. Especially, see, what's Olivia's situation? Her father is dead, her brother is dead. So she cannot afford to turn this duke into an enemy by offending him, by refusing him. So this is kind of an attempt to somehow keep him away, yet not offend him directly. All this to season a brother's dead love. He means dead brother's love. Okay, it cannot be brother's dead love. Then that means love is dead. Which she would keep fresh and lasting in her sad remembrance. And then Orsino, who should have understood the hint that Olivia is not interested, completely refuses to understand anything. He says, "Oh, she that hath a heart of that fine frame to pay the debt of love but to a brother." Orsino thinks that the love women have for their brothers cannot be a significant thing, cannot be a big thing. Women love their husbands more than they love their brothers. This is his idea. He has these fixed ideas about the world. He always goes by these cliches. Okay. And he says that, okay, she is capable of loving a brother so much. How much she will love when she will marry a man? How will she love when the rich golden shaft hath killed the flock of all affections else that live in her? So she has this affection for her brother. So that affection is living in her. If she falls in love with Orsino, then what will happen? Then Cupid, who is the god of love, the mischievous Cupid, he will shoot an arrow of love. And when somebody is stuck by that arrow of love, that person forgets all other loves of his life or her life. Like the love for the mother, the love for the father, the love for the brother, everything is gone. You only think about your boyfriend or girlfriend. That is what Orsino wants to believe. He says that this woman loves her brother so much. How much she would love me when she would be affected by Cupid's arrow, the rich golden shaft. Shaft means arrow. Then she would not love anybody else and all her affection would be channelized towards me. When liver, brain and heart, these sovereign thrones, it was believed that the liver was the site of passion, sexual urges, desires. Brain is of course the site of intellect, and heart is the site of emotion. So when a person falls in love with someone, usually all these three are involved. There is physical desire, there is an intellectual connection and an emotional attachment. So the Duke says, when liver, brain and heart, so instead of saying when desire, intellect and emotion, he is using the organs associated with these things. So here he is using what we say a metonymy. Okay. These sovereign thrones, these places, these organs of these emotions and desires are all supplied. So when the liver, brain and heart, they are all supplied with Orsino. So when Olivia's organs and emotions and everything is filled with Orsino, then her sweet perfections with oneself king away before me to sweet beds of flowers. So now he thinks that he is in a mood to go to the garden. When this scene begins, he wanted to listen to music and now he wants to go to the garden. Why? Because just like music is the food of love, so are flowers and beautiful objects. Love thoughts lie rich when canopied with bowers. He is obsessed about love thoughts. See, thought, imagination, fancy. If you are truly in love with someone, would you convince yourself the way Orsino convinces yourself, or would you actually go out, by your own or on your own to see that person. Yes, one might say that because this Duke is a royal figure, an aristocrat, he cannot on his own go to Olivia's house. But then, if he was really in love with her, would he be really satisfied that she is going on rejecting even an audience with his messenger? Notice the repeated use of personal pronouns. I, me, myself, me thought. If you actually count them, I counted them, he uses them almost like 10 times. He names Olivia once and he talks about himself. So it's all about himself. It wouldn't matter if it was somebody else and not Olivia. He is not in love with Olivia for anything that Olivia is. He is not describing her qualities, her real qualities. He is describing his speculations, his ideas about her. We do not get any idea about Olivia's character from his words, and therefore we begin to doubt the genuineness of this affection. There are good things about him. I'm not saying that Orsino is a total failure. He is a very musical person. He speaks in rhythms. Although, yes, he uses a lot of cliches. Love is like an ocean, then this golden rich shaft. And at the same time, there's a lot of dependence on these attendants to be with him, to keep him in focus. Usually when a person is in love, they do not express these emotions in a public way. He is not a private person. Okay, it's as if he loves advertising his emotions. And that makes us doubt the genuineness again. So who can even think of loving a man like this? A man who is, in the first impression that we have, is definitely a moody man, unstable, unrealistic, unpredictable. You can't depend on him. How can you love him? So who can love a man like this? Well, we'll meet her right in the next scene. Maybe we are making assumptions about Orsino a little too soon. Maybe we should wait a little longer to conclude whatever we have to conclude about this little bear we have. From an exam point of view, the first speech of Orsino is very important. It, of course, places a lot of emphasis on Orsino's dreaminess, his love for music, for poetry, and establishes that a central character does not have to be a conventional heroic character. Shades, it's all about shades. Shakespeare's characters are not absolute heroes and absolute villains, not in the comedies at all. We see characters like Orsino because characters like Orsino are there all around us and sometimes right inside us. We will discuss all this. We will discuss about the different shades that come out through different speech that Orsino makes as the play goes on. But from the first scene, we can conclude that Orsino is not a very sorted person, not yet. And he needs something to really change the way he looks at the world. He needs a real change. The change would come, shipwrecked, and we will meet her in the next scene, right here on NibblePop. So stay subscribed so that you don't miss the next scene when I upload it very, very soon. We want to finish this series quickly, but without compromising any content value or any kind of reference, allusions, analysis which I think I should communicate to you. So keep writing in the comment section. See you all very soon in my next video. This is Monami Mukherjee signing off. Stay happy, stay subscribed. Bye.